Hi, my name is Temitope Runsewe, and I'm an under 40 CEO.
The African Renaissance. The concept that the African people and nations shall overcome the current challenges confronting the continent and achieve cultural, scientific, and economic renewal is here, with young men and women taking the lead. Some call them the new school heroes. We call them under 40 CEOs.
Temitope graduated with first-class honors with a Bachelor of Science in Computing from Richmond American International University, and also bagged a master's degree in Analysis, Design, and Management on Information Systems from the London School of Economics. Temitope Runsewe is currently the Managing Director of Dutum Company, a leading construction and engineering firm in Nigeria. Prior to returning to Nigeria, Temitope was an associate within the Global Commodities Group in JP Morgan Chase, based in London. He is a business executive, a philanthropist, entrepreneur, and mentor.
All right, welcome to Under 40 CEOs, Tope.
Thank you very much.
All right, so Tope, it's interesting to note that you bagged a first-class Bachelor of Science degree in computing. That's from the Richmond American International University. And I'm sure there were a lot of twists and turns that led you to studying computing in the first place. So tell me about your childhood, parentage, and, studying computing.
Right, okay, so ending up in computing was actually by chance, right? I had been groomed to be a civil engineer or an architect. I enjoyed technical drawing, building construction, all of that in secondary school. They were my favorite subjects. And then I got admitted to study civil engineering in the University of Ibadan. Oh. And we resumed. And the day I resumed, ASU went on strike that year.
Oh, wow.
So as soon as we got to campus, to do the necessary registrations and all of that, we're all just hanging around, and then we found out that a strike action just commenced. So, everyone went back home, thinking, it was going to be just a brief one, maybe a week, maybe two, and then it became a month, and 2 months, and then 3 months, and then 4 months, and then in the turn of the year, around January of the following year, having stayed at home from September, that was September, October, November, December, and then January, and that there was no end in sight, my dad goes, are you gonna look for a school abroad and see what, because this thing is taking too long. So I started searching at that time. If you remember, that was 99. We were using dial-up internet then, so you connect your system, so I'll go online for hours searching for schools. And then there were so many things that happened, but I narrowed down that I needed to be in the UK, not in the US. And, because I would have stayed at home for a year, and US was going to be for 4 years, and staying in the UK, I would have had to do A-levels for 2 years. And anyway, I found this school in the UK, which was an American university. So when I searched, I discovered that they did not have civil engineering, but the closest thing they had to civil engineering was a computing course that could lead to a computer engineering degree. So I thought, okay, let me start off here. And the plan was do the first 2 years in that computing in the liberal arts American style of school. In the first 2 years is kind of, you're doing everything, and then the last 2 years is when you concentrate. So the plan was do 2 years in that school in the UK and then transfer to George Washington University to do complete civil engineering. So I got admitted, and then I was given a scholarship. And after 2 years, I was now on a full scholarship. When I started, it was a part scholarship, but at the end of 2 years, it had increased to a full scholarship. So I then started applying to go and do the civil engineering, but I thought, this place, I already have full scholarship. I'm used to London. You know, they like me in this school. You know, I just thought, what's the worst thing that can happen? Let me just continue with the computing, and that's how civil engineering just sort of fizzled away. And I ended up, you know, continuing and finishing my computing degree. And like you said, I did pretty well in it.
You didn't just do pretty well in it. You know, for 4 years running at the Richmond University, it's on record that you were on the Dean's List for many years, for all of the 4 years, and eventually you got the award for the most outstanding computer science graduating senior. That was in 2004. Tell me about that.
So I think there's just a natural drive that I've always had for putting my best into whatever it is that I'm doing. So whereas computing was not really what I wanted to study, but I figured whatever my hands finds to do, I must give it my best. And coupled with the fact whether the motivation was also tied to the fact that to maintain my scholarship, I had to maintain a particular minimum GPA, right? So the motivation was clear that if I drop below this point, I'm going to lose the scholarship. So that combined with just a natural drive to get things done. And the moment I was on the Dean's List the first year and I saw the accolades that came with it, there was no way I was going to get off that list. And I was on the list throughout. Eventually graduated with summa cum laude. Honors was beautiful. I had a very good time. And but I think maybe my social life suffered a little bit because, you know, I just spent all the time trying to get good grades. But anyway, I think in the course of this conversation, I've learned to balance that over time as well.
Which is great, which is really great. All right, so you hold an MSc, a Master of Science from the London School of Economics. Tell me about your key highlights from that time.
Basically, the moment the direction was set, right, the only thing I could do subsequently, and I got 2 admissions for my MSc as well. I got admitted to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, and then I got admitted, and that was going to be for a purely technical computing, hardcore, like software engineering direction. Maybe if I had done that, I would be in Silicon Valley now. Who knows?
Possibly.
You know. And then the second admission was at London School of Economics to do like a management in information systems type of course, which I thought was going to now be putting me in the direction of management and business. So I actually went to Pittsburgh. Yes, I had been admitted. I also had a part scholarship. I got to Pittsburgh, I went to the school, I went around, I was like, no, I don't like it. And I went back to London. So, because, you know, the American schools normally resume a bit earlier than the British schools. So I went back to London and resumed at London School of Economics. So it was a good year, you know, studying management and courses that are more in social sciences, and I did my dissertation. And when I was done with my dissertation, or about to be done, my supervisor said, "Look, because I had a distinction in that, the supervisor said, you're pretty good at this. What would you think about doing a PhD? You know, with what you've got, your scores and everything, I'm sure we can get you a good grant, some scholarships and everything. At that time, of course, I had now spent 5 years in university, and around that time too, I just got a job with, I got 2 jobs at the time, one with Deloitte and the second with JP Morgan. So I was like, Madam Professor, yeah, I don't mind the PhD, but just give me a second. Let me just go and make some money in the investment banks for a little bit, maybe 2 years. And when I'm, I feel like it, I'll come back to do the PhD. Well, she's still waiting for me till now.
Amazing, but it seems like there's this thirst for continuous learning and knowledge, and this has even taken you to do executive programs at the Lagos Business School, at Harvard Business School. Tell me, what's your guiding philosophy for this, continuous learning?
So for a very long time, I just imbibed the culture of believing, one, that I don't know everything, that I need to keep learning in order to stay relevant and on top of things. And then more recently, as I started taking the executive programs, I then also saw it as a platform for meeting new people and like-minded people. So it has become a part of me to ensure that maximum of every 24 months, I take on a new educational endeavor. So that got me to do PMP at some point. At some point, I did a course in real estate at Lagos Business School. Then I did a course at Harvard Business School on family business. Then I did, most recently, a course at Stanford called the Stanford Seed Program, which is a program for African business leaders. And that has just continued to metamorphose, attending business programs, seminars, and workshops. Almost every year, it has become a part of me and what I do. So, and I have seen the benefit of it, both for me as a person and in my business, because every time I go, I learn something new. I meet new people. I get a new exposure. I get a new understanding of life. And I don't think it's ever going to change, even till old age. I'll keep on, and I have a sort of a personal development schedule that basically guides what I look for, because there's so many things you can learn out there. So right now, I'm presently in a leadership phase. So I'm taking programs on leadership and looking for courses on personal leadership, business leadership, and things like that.
Having always been motivated towards excellence, TOPE's guiding philosophy for continuous learning prompted him to get a master's degree at the London School of Economics, and he knew that he would later get a job when he was done with his degree. Thus, he started laying the foundation for that by attending career fests, workshops, and companies he could work at without a work permit.
Okay, so let's go back to that time when you didn't heed your professor's advice and you went on to chase money at JP Morgan Chase. So tell me about your time at JP Morgan Chase.
Okay, so before I tell you about that, I want to actually tell you how that happened. Right? So, because it's very important how it happened. So immediately I got admitted I started at London School of Economics. And, and this is one lesson I've taken everywhere I go. And I always have at every point in time a 3-5 year plan, right? So immediately so first of all, even going to the UK, the plan was always stay here, school, work for a bit, do a few things, and come back to Nigeria. The plan was there, so there was nothing that was going to change that. So in getting to LSE, I knew the plan was that immediately after this, I want to work, right? So immediately I got in there, I started going to the careers offices within the school to say, okay, when I'm done, I want to get a job. So what is out there for me as a graduate? And in that period, I discovered that as an international student, I couldn't get any job because I didn't have a work permit. So that immediately limited the amount of jobs that I could apply for. And then I found out that the only categories of jobs I could apply for were called graduate jobs. And those jobs were in certain high-class organizations who only employ the best. And because of them employing the best, they make a case to the Home Office to say, we have done an open search across the world. Everybody went through the same process. And these 10 or these 50 or 100 came out on top. So we don't care whether they have work permits or not. We want them to work for us. So in that case, they will check which one of you doesn't have work permit, which one of you doesn't have passport, and they would take our documents, apply for us, and get us. So I was like, okay, so that is the only place I can apply for. So I look for those companies, and this is what I do all the time. When I have something I'm targeting, I'm like, okay, who are the people that can give me this? Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, who are they? They said there were 100 companies, and I listed all of them, or thereabout, and I started applying for every one of them. In the lead up to this, I applied for over 150 jobs.
Oh, wow.
That's, I was applying, getting rejected, applying, getting rejected. After a while, I understood how to do the applications. So I started going from application to getting interviews, right? And in those graduate jobs had, procedure. So you do the application, then you do the first stage interview, then you do the second stage interview, then you do the assessment center, then you do some tests before you are eventually given an offer. So I learned how to do the applications probably after about 50 plus applications.
Failed ones.
Failed ones, yes. And then I now learned how to do it. So I started getting past the first stage and I started appearing for interviews. And then I probably had about 20 plus failed first round interviews. Then after a while, I figured out how to get the first round interviews. All of this was while I was a student. So I was a full-time student. I was a full-time applicant because I knew if I did not get this sorted in this year, by the time I'm done and my student visa is expired, I will become an illegal immigrant and either have to go back home or look for another course so that I can renew my student visa. And I didn't want to do that. So I knew this was a do or die. It was as important to me as my studies, right? So I was doing my studies. I was taking this application seriously. So I figured out how to get this through the first stage interview and get into the second. Then I started failing those again, right? And then I mastered that. So, and every time I fail, it's not that they will continue from there. I have to start from the beginning and go through all the stages, right? Until I figured out how to get to the last stage. As a matter of fact, both Deloitte and JP Morgan, where I eventually got jobs, that was my second time of applying to them. I had failed previously. Wow. Either in both of them, I remember in JP Morgan's case, I failed the first one at the very first, at the application stage. The first time I applied to Deloitte, I got to the first interview and then I was rejected. And then I applied again. Most of them have like 9 months or yearly cycles. So I waited till the next cycle. I started the rounds of applications again. And then by the time I was in the second round, this time, the following year, the first two I applied for, Deloitte and JP Morgan, I got offers. And then I ended up in JP Morgan. And like my practice is, once I get in an environment, I check how can I contribute, what can I do, how can I add value beyond my, what it is I'm there to do, because I always believe that that is where you meet the right people and your benefit becomes more than just being a regular person. It was a fantastic experience, I'm going to say.
So by 2009, you were with Dutum. And so how did that transition happen?
So remember at the beginning of this discussion, I told you that to a large extent, I learned very early to have plans. And I also learned that plans are not cast in stone, but they can change. But in this particular case, the plan when I was leaving Nigeria was go to the UK, study for a bit, get some experience, and come back to Nigeria to run Dutum. So I just stuck to the plan. After 3 years or thereabout at JP Morgan, I just got promoted from a graduate analyst to an associate, and I put in my resignation and said I was leaving. And my manager was confused. He called his manager and his manager's manager. Look, this guy that we just promoted says he's leaving. Maybe he's not happy with the size of the promotion. And everybody, they were calling me, having meetings, saying they were going to add to the money. And I was like, no, it has nothing to do with that. It's just, it's time to go. He said, to do what? I said, to Nigeria. I said, to do what? I said, well, it was always in my plan that I'll come here, spend some time working, get some experience, understand a bit about how business works, and return to Nigeria to, contribute my quota in whatever way that would be. All of that was not 100% crystal clear at the time, but I knew that I needed to, go. So I resigned. They tried to convince me. I was adamant. I sent in my resignation, gave them the usual 30-day notice, and then I just put my stuff in boxes before anyone could change my mind. I gave a friend of mine the key to the flat that I, was living at the time. Gave him the key, told him all my stuff is in boxes. He should just help me get them on a ship or whatever, and I'm gone. I left. Came to Nigeria, and then that was
what year was this?
That was 2009, and since then till now, all I've done has been Dutum, and I'm glad I did when I did. Hi, my name is Temitope Runsewe, and you too can be an under 40 CEO.